Video games, one of the most prominent entertainment devices in our society that truly captures modern culture. Video games come in many different platforms, from RPGs to online-based games you can play with people all over the world, to platformers where your only objective is to get from point A to point B. But where did video games begin? Well, Sherry TURKLE has a brilliant article. The article is called Video Games and Computer Holding Power. It goes into vivid detail about video game history and current use. Sherry is a professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Video Games and Computer Holding Power was written as part of her book, The Second Self, where she talked about how computers are more of a part of our social life than they are a tool for us to use. Another notable work of hers is Life on the Screen. It talks about how computers and technology affect how we see ourselves as human beings by going through both the positive and negative side effects that playing the role of someone else can have on people of various different age groups. This article is important to the study of new media because at the time it was written, video games were still a new thing and people didn't really understand the impact they could have on someone playing them. The article shows people who play video games for different reasons and the ways it helps them in their daily lives.
Those different reasons can be background to our individual mindsets and how we perceive video games, something that Sherry TURKLE touches on in her article. In fact, she touches on a lot of things. Sherry discusses the introduction of video games into our modern-based culture and describes their effect on both individuals and how society perceives them. She starts the article by connecting computing and machinery and showing how computers have spread in our culture and their effect on modern video games. She does so by displaying the inherent differences between physical games such as the pinball machine and digital video games such as Pac-Man, giving various ways on how individuals treat both innovations and how they perceive them. Sherry argues against the claim that video games are mindless forms of entertainment, and declares that video games are much more than that the skill necessary and the various strategies utilized require talent and coordination that gives people a unique skill. Sherry displays many aspects of video games by giving anecdotes of individuals such as Jerish, a child who became interested in programming video games and using creativity in creating his own set of worlds in games, or individuals who use video games to be a better form of themselves such as Jimmy or Roger. Sherry focuses on how video games are created and their effect on individuals and how our culture is shifting through generations.
Many video games nowadays fulfill the needs of people's perfectionist personalities. Such is the case with a game like Cuphead. This article puts forth the arcade gaming machines from the 80s. The idea back in those days was to go to an arcade game stores and play it on the arcade machine, unlike nowadays, which is pretty different. The idea of an arcade gaming store is changed throughout the years and replaced itself with play it wherever you want. Now rather than going to an arcade, people buy consoles that can play many different games, usually digitally or from a disc. One specific game of today that relates well to the article is Cuphead. In the article, Jimmy talks about how he likes to perfect a strategy for a game until he has completely mastered it. In Cuphead, you go through various levels where you must defeat a different boss each time. Each level requires near perfect execution of a strategy involving many different mechanics. Another game that relates to the article is Skyrim. Skyrim is an open-world fantasy role-playing game that is very similar to the Dungeons & Dragons. In both games, you take on the role of a character and go on adventures of your own choosing.